Call this meeting to order. This is the committee of the whole meeting for January 14th, 7:30 p.m. We're early, but that's okay. I think.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Okay. We'll have all of your I'm going to do it anyways because it's a separate meeting. For those in attendance online, be aware that our meetings are recorded for public viewing and placed on a publicly available website. I've called the meeting to order. We do acknowledge that we are doing our business this evening on the unceded First Nation land of Ehatisat Chinnikit territory. So if someone will approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda. Second that.
Thank you, Councillor Copeland.
I'm so serious.
All in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? That's carried. We don't have any minutes to adopt. The business arising this evening is our portfolio positions. So a report attached with that. CEO Nelson Smith, did you want to speak to this at all?
Thank you. At one of our previous meetings, knowing that we were going to have a by-election, council requested that it be tabled until all council was present to discuss where the portfolio positions would be. Knowing that we were going to do the oath of office tonight, staff has put this back on the agenda for discussion and recommendation to council on what portfolios will go to which councillors.
Thank you for that. I met with Councillor Copeland briefly and explained that, you know, in my experience and in this position that I have on this council now as mayor, we're really not trying to tag anybody with anything or force anybody to do anything that they have zero interest in unless we absolutely have to. So what we've tried to work on so far, I think, is where people's interests are, what they kind of like to be doing, you know, and all of the responsibilities are explained in the portfolio scope and role in your agenda. I'll give you 1 second to draw another, or Councillor Beck. I do wish that we had the 2024 because Councillor Lewis isn't here tonight and I can't remember where she was slated in. But I will open it up for conversation about who would like to volunteer for what portfolios this time around. It can change every year. And then as you'll see at the top of the page on page 3 of 25, is that acting mayor, we've split it up to the 4 other councillors during the year. And so it's Councillor Deck first, then Janice, then Lewis, then Copeland at the end of the year. SRD we have already done, and the hospital district and the library we've already done. So the rest are up for grabs. I'm going to go to Councillor Deck because he had a comment first, and then I'll come to staff. Yes.
Yes, I may not be available for the next couple of meetings, so I just want to make sure that you had me penciled in what I did last year, because I'm more than glad to do it again.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you just for clarity, are you talking about like for the
Hospital board and the
yeah,
garbage dump and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
the
already
solid
there.
waste?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's already in there.
yeah.
Okay.
Just confirming.
Yeah, okay, good. And also anytime that you can't go, let me know and I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for your service on this last year as well. CAO Nelson Smith.
Thank you. Yeah, I've just pulled up 2024 and Councillor Lewis in 2024 was on the road user group and the community health network.
Oops. And I didn't have an opportunity to ask her if she'd like to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to work through this as well as we can this evening. There is only a couple. There's the tourism portfolio, the road user group, which hasn't had a meeting since Pete's been here for the last 2 years. Yeah, a year and a half.
I think they have one since I've been here.
Since Nelson Smith has been here, they've had one. Not that the road isn't in fantastic shape. But there's always room for improvement. And especially for public input about what, the issues, with the, really difficult parts are. And then there is the Parks and Trails Committee, which we will have to get terms of reference for and information on who wants to sit. Yeah, so there's only a couple to fill out here. I will leave it open to council if there's any that you'd rather. If there's any others that you'd rather do, if there's anything you want to put your name for, speak now, please. I think there's explanations of what they, oh yeah, the Rose User Group is facilitated by an administrator for us, so that time commitment, as you can see from the comments about not having one since 2023, is very, very limited. We don't have many of those. The Community Health Network, I believe, meets every second month. However, I have a little bit of inside information that's been talked at about at a publicly available SRD meeting. And we're trying to possibly rework the forming of that, the Community Health Network, so that the board is part of that committee. And it will be a committee. So we're gonna vote on that probably, I think, next meeting. We've had preliminary conversations about it, so that may change what this looks like. But yeah, as it stands, I think it's only every 2 months. So that's what that looks like. And the tourism portfolio is really, and at your leisure, kind of, do you have ideas about what that looks like in community and want to work on something, that initiative or project going forward? Oh, I will assign these folks.
I'll volunteer. I'd like to be alternate for the tourism portfolio, the road user group, and the community health.
Okay. Okay. So Councillor Janice, alternate for tourism. How do we feel about that, folks?
That's great. Now that he can walk, should make it easy.
It helps. You see it?
It helps. Do you have any interest in being on the Parks and Trails Committee?
Yourself?
Mhm.
No, this.
You would?
It's an ancient records board.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been developed yet.
No, but we'll still get, we haven't done terms of reference or anything for it, but we'll still, there needs to be at least one counselor on that board, so this is perfect. Yeah. I'd actually really like to be on it too, and I don't know if Councillor Lewis was or not. It's because from her involvement with the cenotaph stuff, so that's a question that will still have to be answered, but I'll put my name down for that. Gail Nelson Smith.
Thank you. With the Councillor Copeland now being part of council, we will have to decide on only 2 council members. If we have 3, that creates quorum for council and not the committee. So therefore, any decisions made as the Parks and Trails Committee, that decision's already been made for council because you've already had 3.
Right.
That form quorum.
Right. I knew that.
Got it. Okay,
So you can only have 2 councillors on.
I will talk to Councillor Lewis then and see. Okay,
How come I thought it was only 1?
That is a standing.
Yeah.
Okay.
not a select. Okay, so we've still got tourism portfolio liaison open. Going once.
Alternate. That what we're looking for?
Councillor Janice was the alternate.
So, can I speak freely?
Yeah, please do.
So-
Councillor Janice.
So, you know, with that portfolio, I was involved in it for quite a bit. And it's really, there's nothing to it unless you make something. So, and I'd be willing to help if you were, I know you're in that business in town, and that's a good thing, and that's a good position as a business owner to be part of that portfolio, because you can bring the part of the community together that has that interest and help to make some decisions moving forward together, right? So, and I would definitely be interested in being part of it. But I ran it and I'm not interested in running it again.
What about conflict of interest, because I do have a business? I have to be more careful what I address.
CEO Nelson Smith, I'll let you speak directly to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, you would have to tread carefully, that you are not promoting Zeballos in specifically. But looking at promoting tourism in general for the village of Zeballos. That portfolio, although at one point it was a working position, we've learned that council actually doesn't have to work. So it would be liaisoning with like the North Island, Vancouver Island North Tourism Association, finding out what they're doing. Attending other meetings. I believe Campbell River has a similar group of trying to attract tourism to the North Island. So that position would be attending those meetings either virtually or in person, and then bringing back information to council to make a decision. Do we want to spend $500 in an advertisement for the North Island magazine?
Okay. Yeah, I remember that, sure.
Yeah, thank you for that, sir. Any kind of ideas or projects that come to mind, always vetting everything through the CAO first, make sure that there is that second hand look, and that it's completely transparent, that it's something for the village as a whole and not just your business, because that's he's a wealth of information about it.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, and Councillor Denise is great to talk to as well. He ran his own business in town while he was doing that position, and there was never any,
Not even close.
yeah, so, yeah.
You just gotta make sure you're focusing on the big picture.
Yeah.
And not yourself.
Right now, I'm concerned about perception.
Yeah.
I think the perception would be that you care about
Okay, cool.
tourism, and because you have a business, that's a good thing, because you have an extra reason to care, right? It's like,
Sure.
Right. Next we're on to road user group. I'll put my name forward and get them to get a meeting together.
And I think Councilor Lewis would be interested in staying on that one.
Okay, so let's do Coburn, Lewis, and Janice has already expressed his interest.
Mhm.
The Community Health Network, I know Councilor Lewis was on that. Do we want to check with her and see, and also keep our eye on what the SRD is doing with their, does that sound like a way forward? I'm not seeing any. If you have any issues, folks, raise your hand, let me know. CEO Nelson Smith.
Thank you. We didn't have a lot of success last year in getting connected with the Community Health Network. So if it's transitioning to the SRD, that will be a good thing. Or we're going to have to, make a stronger strive at getting whichever councillor is part of that connected to the network.
For sure, and as I know more, I will come back here, because of course, if they're doing that as a committee of the Strathcona Regional District, then I'll be on it. So it's, it'll just be a committee for me. I believe, unless they're gonna ask for participation for participants, and then if they ask if I want to be on it, I can't guarantee that I do have the time to be on it. It depends what the time commitment is, right? So I'll bring forward some more information and get the CAO to communicate with you about the validity of even having it on our portfolio list. Sounds reasonable, folks? Okay. So emergency program coordinator, we have ESS, that can be a counselor anyways. So really, we've got it. Essentially, except for a couple of blank spots, we're gonna ask Councilor Lewis about. CEO Mrs. Smith.
ESS could be a councillor, just not an appointment. So councillors are allowed to volunteer for the village outside of being on council.
Yes.
It's just not an appointed position.
Okay. So if anybody would like to volunteer to be the emergency social services volunteer, that would be fantastic.
You
Can CAOs volunteer? Or
Can CEOs volunteer? We have already had the conversation about being here. I'm just kidding. We haven't talked about that, but I don't think that you can because,
I would be the director.
right?
he's always got an answer, doesn't he?
I know.
No.
I will not say that he always has the right answer though, so.
I thought you were
I'll
gonna say
put that
definitely
out there.
going to do it.
I was just gonna say that my method is say something and say it confidently, whether you know it or not.
Mhm.
Oh, boy.
I like how you
This
said
is a public meeting. We know that, right?
that.
Okay, folks, and also, we are always looking for Board of Variance members, people. I'm gonna put this out in a public meeting. We are required by legislation to have a Board of Variance. The Board of Variance hasn't met since Deb Brown lived in town. 2014. Since 20, right? Like, it's not a much of a time limit. It is, cannot be someone on council. It is prohibited from being somebody on council because it must be arm's length of council. So if you're talking to people on the street, talk to them about zoning bylaws, about Board of Variance, and about emergency social services. Actually, don't talk to them about the zoning bylaw because we can't do that. And we've had the public hearing.
Personally, I think Bella would be perfect.
I think so, well.
I think so too. I was just thinking that.
She really would be perfect.
Appointed today at this council. CAO Nelson Smith.
Thank you. Given our current zoning structure and what a Board of Variance is for, we haven't had needs since I started in 2022. It is strictly to look at hardship, so it's not setbacks or it is strictly hardship. So I want to build a house in the setback here, but there's a giant rock that I would have to blast out. That's a hardship. For me to do it the way you want me to do it is too expensive. It's not a hardship.
Yeah.
So Board of Variance strictly looks at hardship, no other areas of zoning.
It's not a big time commitment.
No.
So someone would come from Ontario would know all about hardships, right? Because they had to live there. They-
Oh, goodness. Okay, back on topic, back on topic. Oh, my. Okay, so we pretty much got that all. According to CAO Nelson Smith, that looks good?
Yeah.
Okay. We are on to the financial plan. Claudia Frost is joining us. Hello, Claudia. So nice to see you online, and so is Ms. Alana Denise from home. CEO, did you want to say anything about this report first, or were we turning it right over to?
No, thank you. I'll just, I'll speak.
Okay.
So I just want to give kudos to the team, Claudia and Alana especially, but all of the staff have worked together on getting this information together. We still do require some direction from council, specifically on the pools of money which we are going to fund some of these proposed projects. And also, I just wanted to communicate that it is our hopes that some of the ones that we are solid with, we can get approved as budgetary items prior to adopting the 5-year financial plan, so that staff can get working as soon as possible on them. So I'm thinking like maybe March, but that we can have a mostly adopted budget, so that staff can get working on it. As far as the details, I will hand this over to Claudia and Alana, as like I say, they did the lion's share of the work on this.
Thank you for that, CAO Nelson Smith. And I know as long as I've been here, it has been a goal, not a met goal, but a goal to have the budget done as early as possible in the year so that we could start out in January running and we know where some projects are being funded for. So, and I am absolutely, and I think council from the nods I'm seeing at the table would agree with me that if we can get started a bit earlier next year, knock on wood, that, you know, the sky doesn't fall or the fires don't start or any of those things. Yeah, I think the sooner the better so that we can get these projects on the go. Claudia, I'll turn it over to you. If you're taking the lead on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I like to say that I appreciate that Council, we already had one committee of the whole meeting, and you actually slimlined quite a bit. So I think now it's, I might not be privy to all this information, but it might be advisable to know what is realistic for public works, especially items that you're buying is one thing, but what is realistic given the projects that are left over from 2023, 2024, and what is realistic the public works will be able to accomplish in 2025. Without that, it's hard for you to make these decisions. There is a few things that Pete might end up speaking about, and that is we, council had looked before at putting some projects together and getting a better idea. So that might be from an engineer standpoint, especially when you're talking about the municipal docks, the float planes and that area. So I believe Pete was going to talk, our CAO was going to talk with Maquinna on that. So yeah, that's where we stand. And we just want to kind of, I think you've done a great job. We're not too astronomical in the expenditures this year, so that's really happy. But we have to make those decisions of where the money is going to come from.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So as a way forward, I came in and had a conversation with Alana today and talked about all of the items that were highlighted in yellow. And really, there's some recommendations from staff about where these dollars can come from. Quite a few of them are, you know, grants to be determined as they become available. But if we're looking at the spreadsheet, if we could just go through section by section, and also with keeping in mind what Claudia said, Ms. Frost said about what can actually be expected of work plan for Public Works this year. I'd really like at this point in this CAL for us to really prioritize some of those things and really kind of look at the year and like I said, borrowing the sky falling plan for the year and see what we can and can't, or if we can move some of these things even over a year. Also with the CAO's input about what that looks like with when we can get engineers, with fish windows, with all of those kinds of things. So we're being really realistic. Did you have anything else to offer, Claudia, before we start?
No, thank you, Mayor. I think you've summed it up very well.
Okay, and CAO Nelson Smith, did you have anything?
Nothing further.
Perfect. Councillor Duck.
Yes, one of my priorities is, well, I was snooping around up at the village yard, public works yard the other day. I'd like to see some money spent there. I'd like to see a proper shelter to protect some of the equipment we have that still works. And that's a straightforward issue. It's something that could be done no matter what the weather's like. And take that one off the list, get it done.
So on that, just asking CAO or through the CAO to Public Works, the village properties one. So there are ones that were marked upon and say complete in 2025, complete in 2025. So the first four, so lift station, the middle office ramp replacement, Public Works building, and dike clearing and assessment. Those are slated for this year in Public Works work plan.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Amazing. So you get your weapon. Well done, Ron. No, that's good. For sure. Is there also on the back, as you'll notice, this is where all the money can come from. So I've had a couple looks, I think the lighting, there's nothing really. It's probably gonna have to come out of surplus, that's been recommended. The only one I'd really like to move is from what I've seen, is in the next section. So are we agreed that, for the office admin, that $2,000 comes out of the surplus? It's a small ticket amount, and we're gonna take staff's recommendation on that one?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, perfect. And then the next one is the backhoe. And that's MFA gas tax reserve. I trust whatever they are doing.
Declare.
The bins, it's coming out of surplus, but is there anywhere else that it could come out of? Looking on that back sheet. Start playing at restart, it's not a,
That's 15,000.
yeah, and it doesn't really qualify for COVID restart, does it? The CAO Nelson Smith, help us through here.
Pretty much anything is covered under the COVID restart.
Is it?
It's pretty broad,
Okay,
what they want to do, but, given that it's a solid waste, the climate action would also be applicable, as an environmental, need.
but what did we have that earmarked for? I know we were putting money away in that for fleet recover or fleet possibly,
Possibly an EV.
yeah, right? An EV or something, golf cart to drive around the village or something like that, is that? So I'm just afraid of having the conversation about taking money out of that before we talk about surplus and putting money in reserves, you know what I mean? If we could replace that with surplus and put it back into, you know what I mean? But then it might as well just come out of surplus,
It's quite a bit there
right? There is,
in the climate action,
yeah.
$139,000.
Do you think we should do the,
I think we should take the garbage
garbage and put it
out
in
of
that one?
there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
And we'll still have enough to do a EV out of that.
Good with
Yeah.
that, Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we can add into that at the end of this year, at the end of next year, when we're ready to do those purchases, right? So we can prop those reserves back up. Okay, so let's do that. Let's take it out of the climate action fund because it is climate action along the lines of
It's worthy.
climate, it is worthy, exactly. And then the next one, the 6,000 for the Starlink, that is 100% COVID money. That is 100% COVID money. The pandemic made us have to be linked, right? I think anyways, that's COVID restart money,
Makes sense.
right?
Communication.
Yeah, the pandemic led us towards the path of doing everything online. We need Starlink. Just
Got it.
even as a backup.
I agree.
Okay, and then the next one is the water and sewer reserves for the SCADA. Does anybody want to speak to that?
I can speak a bit to it and hopefully Hudson can provide some more insight. We recently met with our sewer, ticket holder, from H2OP. And he has a connection with a SCADA expert that is going to come and help us assess whether it is our radio Wi-Fi link, whether it's something to do with the SCADA itself. He's going to basically help diagnose to find an appropriate direction that we need to go.
I'm gonna stop you right there, and I'm gonna ask, because we have a new counselor, that you explain to him what the SCADA is. And I'm gonna do that quite often in the next little while, because we use a lot of acronyms, and I should have done it when we did the MFA loan. That's a municipal finance authority loan that we take out. They are our financial body that we can borrow money from. So that's what that was. And I've also asked Alana if she can find, I know there's a coding somewhere for all the acronyms we use, but SCADA is our,
I couldn't actually tell you what it stands for.
no, but what is it?
But the SCADA system is a system that runs our water and our sewer system It's a way that we have it on our computer, and it links basically our water reservoir into our water pumps. When the reservoir gets low, it knows how to turn the pumps on. We can monitor that through what we see highs and lows and whatever we see on our screen. And then it's also connected with our lift stations, which it reads the same thing, highs and lows, to know if we're ever going to be in an emergency situation or if the pump is running dry. So it's just a way that all of our systems connected.
Well, the money, the 11,000 is to,
We've had nothing but issues since I've started with Village of Zeballos with our SCADA. As Pete's saying, we're bringing someone in here soon. I'm not quite sure if it's the radio signals, if it's the Wi-Fi link, or if it's the internals of the SCADA system, but it's causing lots of issues. That's complicated to diagnose, especially for me, not having a whole lot of experience with SCADA, and it's a profession. It's so if we have someone coming soon, that'll hopefully shoot us in the right direction of what we need.
thank you both.
Supervisory control and data acquisition.
which says nothing that it's a water and sewer system. Right?
Yes.
And so every time we get a brownout or a blip or a power surge or a power outage, it throws the SCADA system off. So the lift stations, which lift the sewage out of the pipes and into the sewage fields, that's what the lift stations do, right? They pump it to the lifts, to the field. They go offline. They don't know if there's any poo in the pipe or what's going on. Also, our water systems. Nobody knows if there's water in the reservoir. It could be dry. You have to go and actually manually look at it. And it's just, it creates a whole lot of problems for public works.
Okay, it's a human machine interface. Is what it is. So
One of them can't speak English.
we gotta be able to talk to it, and if we don't know how, then we ended up in.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good way of putting that. Okay, so SCADA, that's what we think so far. Is that. Sewer and
Well,
water reserve.
Extremely important.
Wastewater, water treatment reserve, like there's not a whole lot in either of those. I say take it wherever you can get it, but there isn't a whole lot. Is this to pay for someone to come up and do that exploratory work?
Partially, but also dependent on what the recommendations are. You know, hopefully that's still enough that we can fix whatever the issue is.
Right, because I mean, hopefully, I mean. If it's a piece of. Equipment, is it gas tax? If it's an infrastructure piece, so if we need
For growing communities.
or growing
I think
communities,
so, yeah,
yeah,
that's what I was just looking at.
okay. Okay, so I mean,
And Alana and Claudia, please jump in if I suggest something I'm not supposed to. You're smarter than I am.
This is being recorded, our wonderful CAO Pete. Everybody heard that. So this is for the SCADA system we're talking? Yeah. Because it is water and sewer related, that's the reserves we're looking at, because as we move forward with the fees and charges, we need to make sure that those are in line to cover things like any upgrades to those systems, because this isn't hopefully this is a system that's in place, and it does make a difference for your water and your sewer. I would suggest that's where it goes, but if you really want to take it from somewhere else, that is totally up to council.
I just worry that those reserves are so low. I'd like to beef those up. If,
Right.
like, not take away from them. So if there's another spot to take it from, like growing communities, gas tax, I forget what the stipulations are those. Councillor Copeland, just for your information, some of these grants, we'll go through more and you'll understand more as we go through, but some of these grants are, or some of these reserves where we're trying to find this funding, have really, some stipulations on them. They can only be used for certain things. So we're trying to kind of wiggle around and make things work in something that they can fall under, even if we have to massage maybe a little bit the, you know. So is Cynthia, does it qualify for the Growing Communities Fund? An upgrade to a SCADA system or work on a SCADA system?
That would be a Pete question. And
See anyone else in Smith?
Could you please repeat the question?
Is the SCADA system upgrades to or work being done on, does that flow under the Growing Communities Fund?
Again, that's another broad,
Right.
grant that was provided to us. So yeah, definitely for infrastructure. That's what Growing Communities was for infrastructure.
Right, and we are growing the septic system,
Just, wait, I was just doing a little investigation here, but this falls right into the gas tax reserve.
right?
Eligible investments include water, wastewater, solid waste, public transit, community energy systems, local roads and bridges.
Yeah, I'd really like to take it from somewhere else other than these two, because I know we're gonna have to replace lift stations. We're going to have to, right, and all of those other things that might possibly have to come out of our reserves. Is there anything that we've earmarked for the gas tax reserve that will deplete it in the next couple of years that we're messing with?
I would
Well,
suggest if it, Pete, that you can maybe answer this, is the Growing Communities Fund, does that have any time stipulations with it or no?
I do believe it does. I'm going to defer to our deputy finance officer, though she may have that a little closer to the front of brain.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Ken, thank you for joining us.
Okay. Nice to see you all. So as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been any hard deadlines for the Growing Community Fund. One of the reasons why I say that is because they've told us that we can put it into reserve and start accruing interest on the balance of the Growing Community Fund. So to answer that question, I don't think there's any hard and fast deadline for that fund.
And then further to that, do we have anything earmarked in the next little while that we are going to deplete that, or are we gonna just stick it into reserves? Cause I'd like to, like I said, I'd like to have the wastewater and I'd like to have a little bit of cushion for next year, because I know there's going to be, and what if we need a new system completely, like, yeah, after this, you know, investigation, right? There is always that option, so things could change. I don't know. How are we feeling? Lana Janice.
I'd also like to add that with the gas tax fund, we do receive about $70,000 a year towards our gas tax fund. So it is something that for the next 10 years under the new gas tax agreement that we are expecting that amount to replenish that reserve every year. So that's something to consider.
Gas tax?
If we're gonna keep getting 70 grand.
That's smart.
Yeah. Okay, let's pop that under gas tax for now and work on beefing up some of these reserves so that we're not in case the sky falls.
Well, hey, you don't know.
Right? Am I moving too quickly or too slowly? Is everybody good?
Just,
Uh,
I think Pete's falling behind.
So let's see, realistic in 2025, that's gonna get completed in 2025. That. What else have we got? Lighting. Bins, Skylink, that's SCADA. I think we're good down to the bottom. They haven't asked, they haven't highlighted in yellow anything that we really need to be too worried about. They're not expecting a decision from us, so flip the page. The second line in the paint section, which is still village properties, is define parking spaces, library, post office, overflow, foreshore. I had a conversation with Deputy Finance Kurt Janice today, and she said that we made decisions to do this, but they have no clue what we're talking about. So as far as I understood, it was pots of yellow paint and railroad ties to make sure people know where they can and cannot, like the roadway, park down at the foreshore, at the post office and that kind of stuff. Is that what we were talking about?
I think so, and perhaps signage. And you know, obvious barriers,
Right?
that's I think the direction.
Right?
Yeah.
Please
Yeah.
do not park on the road at the marina. So nobody can get past you.
And face it, a lot of these drivers are pretty dense. You've got to make it simple
Yeah.
and you have to have a sign.
Yeah.
And line.
Or yeah, lines,
sense.
wide lines. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so, common sense is sometimes hard to understand and roadways, are perplexing for people. So we should delineate spaces about where people can and cannot, especially down at the marina. I know it's different surfaces at the library, at the, but even at the office here, just, yeah, putting lines on the pavement. Or in the overflow, we had talks at some point, there was some talk about there was railroad ties or you had materials around or whatever, but I don't know how that went. Do you want to answer?
Well, it has something to do with, I think we talked about rope and railroad ties is one is kind of tripping hazards, and two is if we're doing that in a gravel parking lot, then it just makes it very hard for me to go and grade and clean those potholes up and do that. Could do a yearly spray paint like Fair Harbor does. They spray paint white lines every year. It seems to stick around for the year. So you just refresh that every spring.
Councilor Deck?
If I may,
Mhm.
the commandant of Public Works is absolutely right. There's some places delineation works and other places it's a waste of time. And the overflow parking, total waste of time. Library, good spot. Down at the docks, good spot. So let's spend some good money to get it done properly in the right places. And we'll all be happy.
So what makes sense for the community? And I think we're working on a parking bylaw, are we not? Fantastic. But in the meantime, yeah, refreshing some paint and actually putting some things out like that. I mean, you guys manage that and park people and tell people where they're available to anyways. But I just think last year, especially with not having a attendant, it was a nightmare to get down with one out to the store. Right? So if it's not a parking space, don't park in it. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
You'd think it'd be obvious, but I mean, and there's lots of people that are guests that aren't from here that have no clue and they're just like, oh, well, this is closest, done. Right?
Thinking of buying a tow truck, Ryan, we could make some.
What about, possibly when we're doing the parking, plan and bylaw, it may be worth talking about chip sealing some of those places that maybe are overflow or gravel, or it might be worth conversation in the future. Councilor Denise.
I think, since we're casual, I was looking at something that's happening in Tofino and you cool it. And it's like, I made this my parking spot or something, and it's ridiculous where people are trying to park because of the influx of people trying to visit those places, right? And I think that we can attest to the fact that that's happening here. And in the last couple of summers, things are getting ridiculous. And if we don't get ahead of this, then we're gonna have a Facebook page like that. And we have an opportunity to get ahead of it a little bit right now. I think we should pay some good consideration. I'm on board with you. I don't think the post office and the library are going anywhere, and a paved parking lot over there with proper signage and proper delineation, those parking spots are going to be used for forever. So there's definite spots that we can do that. Obviously, where we're going to be parking trailers in an overflow, lot 501, who knows what's gonna happen there. It's not worth investing that kind of money or time into.
Mhm.
There's definitely spots that we can do that and make it proper for ourselves, right? And definitely though, in the summer, we're gonna see huge influx. There's a lot of people use this as a port to get to other places too, and that's gonna become more and less as we go by, as we go. The pressure of tourism picking, and it's really affecting the West Coast, and we're gonna see that rise in our time considerably. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, for sure. And also, I think that, you know, I know that we are gonna be doing a parking bylaw and things like that, but anywhere that you can fit in, like, you know, there are a lot of small car spaces where the big trucks with trailers do not belong, right? Those kinds of things. So actually making the spaces for what they're meant to be used for as well. It, you know, some stencils and a small car, those kinds of things. And I trust that staff knows how, you know, with the usage that's happening, where those things are happening and where they could be utilized, right? Maximize the space for what you've got. So I don't know if that includes like an engineering from, you know, Maquinna or what that looks like, or how far you're going in the bylaw, but these are considerations that, you know, you wanted some feedback on what to do with delineation, and this is where we're at. CAO Nelson Smith.
A little off topic, but to do with parking. So the premise of the bylaw, it is majority draft form now. I'm thinking probably February committee of the whole for council to review. Is definitely implementing some rules that will avoid long-term storage. And also some financial incentives to you know, $40 a year.
Cheapest parking in BC.
Yeah. So, and those are some decisions that council will have to make when it comes to, so in tandem with the, you know, creating proper parking spaces, you know, delineation, signage, having a good, strong bylaw will also support.
And then, so if we do that in a committee of the whole next month, that's February. Does that include any mapping of kind of delineation or anything like that would happen down at the foreshore, or the post office, or the village office, like things that aren't going anywhere, like Councillor Jenny said, the community hall?
For the traffic and parking, not specifically, it's more general of, you know, penalties, costs, general thou shall not or thou shall. As far as delineation for the foreshore, we had Maquinna do that, I think, in 2023. And so we already have those drawings. It's a matter of actually getting in front of the tourists, because of Port Hudson last year, there were already trailers parked.
Exactly, and so that's why I was asking if we're doing that in February, is there enough time in March in a dry spell where the car wash isn't full to get some action on that? Is that doable for you, for the public works crew, though, in your work plan?
Yeah,
Is the other
yes,
question.
yes, for sure.
Yeah,
I think it's-
yeah. And I think that's probably like the main there, and the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit where we can do it, if you've already got it mapped out, is probably down at the foreshore and then in front of the village and right, those are probably the lowest hanging fruit that could be accomplished this year, and then we'll put more in to the other areas as we move forward. Does that sound like a good plan with
Yeah.
everybody? Are we,
It's
is that reasonable?
on the easy stuff.
The direction is good. So
Okay.
we'll have to come back, Hudson and I will have to sit down and discuss what a cost to that may be,
Yeah.
for the budget.
Yeah, these are all the yellow kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, so we're just trying to check it, okay.
So, and you had mentioned asphalt.
Yes,
That's going to extremely increase what that budget would be, so that will have to be a council decision.
Yes.
Whether it's going to be $100,000
right,
or
You okay?
10.
Okay.
right. I think in the right places.
Probably won't be.
Smart. And I think that getting on to a plan that yearly things are upkept is the most important part. Because we're gonna make these decisions and we're gonna go, and then we need to upkeep what we've decided and add to it hopefully. But cost is really hard to determine.
We are at,
Going as fast.
thank you, sir, no problem. We don't want you to go at all, but we understand for sure. Yep, got it. And we still have quorum, whether you leave or not.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so select committee for trails, parks,
You too.
yeah. Whatever it is.
Yep, I put.
Okay, perfect. Dock upgrade and engineering, that's, yeah, to be determined. That's probably a feasibility or something like that, and that's in this year, but I don't, depending what that looks like, there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts about that, right? So we're looking for a grant if it becomes available and it falls in our timeline, correct?
Correct, yes. So I had a meeting with Matt Maquinna, got them in under 2 days to provide us with budget numbers of what it would look like. These are very like class D, class C quotes, but at least enough to give us a budget of what it's going to look like if we want to move forward with that project.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't think these are super keen priorities until we get some engineering done and some real numbers and some real plans moving forward, right? We've got a pretty good roster, and these are things that can always be done in the desk and are ongoing. Okay. So that brings us down to fire projects. Deacon. Deacon is a purchase. CCAN is a purchase, so that's, I mean, besides how to get it engineered, how to get it in behind wherever they're gonna put it. So that's not really time consuming or taxing on PW. And that can just come out of surplus? It's only $7,000, but should we be finding, right?
Surplus like in your fire equipment reserve?
No, just our surplus for the year, because we will have an operating surplus.
Okay.
That will have been overpaid, so we'll put it back in community stuff. It's, you know. If we don't want to put it in, there's only $12,000 in that fire equipment reserve.
Great.
It's not, well, it is, it's a hard, fast thing. CAO Nelson Smith, it's a hard, fast thing. It's actual infrastructure. It's portable, but it's brick and mortar. Can it come at a gas tax?
Don't see why not.
Right?
But
It's an asset. It's a thing,
again, growing communities would be another.
right? So what do we think about that suggestion?
Yeah, that's definitely going.
Right? Yeah, growing communities funds. We're growing the fire department.
Yeah. No,
It makes sense to me.
I like
Okay, so growing communities fund, we're growing the fire department, it's growing in our community.
It is growing.
And it's hard, fast infrastructure stuff. So let's do that. And then, of course, we could just be popping the surplus into, we'll be popping the surplus into a reserve, so we'll also be beefing up these other fire equipment reserve, that whatever we choose to do when we know what the surplus is and how that works.
And Chief Moran and I were just having a sidebar here that often the Strathcona Regional District's really good at finding grant funding, so we'll keep our eyes available for any of that, so.
Absolutely. Donation. Why does SCBA say donation or grant?
Oh, Habitat is looking at providing us with some equipment.
Fantastic. Yeah, I guess electrical and, yeah, upgrade is kind of. Or the ropes, harness and road rescue equipment. Yeah, those are kind of. And this is right up Sean Koopman's alley. So we'll leave those at either surplus or, grant. Does that sound reasonable? Take their suggestion, staff suggestion? What are your thoughts? Alana Janice has a comment.
Thank you, Mayor. It would be awesome if council could decide either surplus or grant funding. Or if council for sure wanted to make those purchases or follow through with those projects, then we could expense it to surplus. And if a grant comes about, then we could use a grant to fund that. But if it is only something that we want to proceed with, if there is grant funding, then that should be determined.
Thank you for that. Sorry, I said to you, Councillor Janice, but I thought that might provide clarity. So Councillor Janice, you were.
So, I don't know what I was saying.
So,
We're at road rescue equipment.
yes,
I think that's definitely be upon granting.
upon grant availability.
And
I'm.
the next to $50,000, like, you know, that's a big, huge investment for something that, you know, might have lack of use. So without a grant, I don't think we should be getting surplus. And this equipment has an expiry date on it also. So that's a lot of money. I like,
So
you know,
the 50,000 is the SCBA's?
no, that's the road rescue.
Okay,
The SCBA is a definite need.
Yeah.
That's the two there.
so the 15 and the 5, you're talking about the
The
rope and
15.
harness for the road rescue? Yeah, okay. Okay,
So I think, you know, if we can get the grant, that's one thing.
okay,
Now we're down to electrical.
and that's gonna have to, that's our own stuff, we're gonna have to upgrade that, that's maintenance on our building,
No question,
surplus.
no question.
Okay, so was that clear as mud? So, surplus CCAN, or no, growing communities, CCAN, grant road rescue and grant harness. And then surplus for the electrical and then the donation for this SCBA's.
That we're expecting a donation? Is that what
They're working on, it's a different grant that, Habitat Shenfield is
Right.
working on, and then they will, there's talk of that being a donation to the fire.
Cool.
Yeah, and we're just looking at what that looks like. Okay, so are you following on? We're good, we're down to recreation at the bottom. So the overflow parking lot completed in 2025. Oh, we didn't talk about the complete in 2025 stuff for our public works. All of these things that are, say, complete in 2025 are within your work plan and capacity to do?
Everything that's listed in 2025?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ones that have the complete in 2025 notes on them.
Yeah,
So for instance, the seaplane feasibility study, if, depending what you
yeah,
adopt.
yeah,
All these things are dependent on, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be able to get the floor, fire hall, floor, the meeting room.
yeah.
Those are within the 2025 scope of work.
Yeah.
Barring the sky public.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I think there's another hand. I don't know if it's
Oh.
an existing hand.
Deputy Financial Officer Janice.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It was an existing hand.
Thank you. Oh, Claudia Frost.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just hoping, since Public Works is at the meeting, that would they be able, or do we have an idea of what the cost will be for the parking spaces, lines on the pavement that you were looking for and the upgrades to that? Do we have any idea of what that cost might be? Because we have that as a question mark. Thank you.
anyone else in Smith?
Thank you. Yeah, we just, you might have missed it, because there was a few people speaking. Hudson and I are going to go back and have a look at what that cost may be. We are looking for further direction, whether there's going to be asphalt involved, because that will exponentially, increase the cost of the project.
Well, I think what we got to for at least this year, because we're gotta get stuff done before the tourist season. So the priority, I think we discussed, is the marina and out front here, because those are small, attainable, like that actually can be accomplished in this year. And then as we move forward, looking at chip sealing and any kind of delineation at the library, at that kind, those are conversations. So maybe, putting some dollars in there might be appropriate, but putting it in for the end of the year, for the end of the season, right? Because we're gonna get busy. It's January, folks, but people are gonna be here in April. So, got what we can get done in this front piece in the spring, and then whatever's, yeah, go ahead.
I'm thinking, just based on that knowledge, that these would likely be costs that we can cover under operational then. If it's just paint and some delineation. I will go out and see if I can get a quote on some signs. I'll work with Hudson on what signs we need. And that's something we'll bring back before the next committee of the whole. But as far as the delineation, from what I'm sounding or hearing from council, is that it could be something just done in operations.
Good.
Okay. And also keeping your eyes and ears open for, any projects that might be happening, for instance, over at Ehasat or at the school or anything like that, where, chip seal paving, anything down at the plant, at the fuel dock, anything like that, right? Keeping your eyes and ears open, but also having maybe a price point for us, so that in the fall, when they're done, we might want to get a quote or two. To do, like Councilor Denise said, and start doing that, the things that aren't going anywhere. That's our public works firm in Mahala.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, there's even things to like save costs, like as far as delineation, like I've used over at Maquinna, I've used that are available, that we have piles. There's a big pile of rocks that's actually at the library and post office. We're thinking about delineating areas. It's a cheap, easy, effective way of doing it too.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think some permanence, is a good thing. So, bring us some quote back if,
Paint.
when you're talking about it, yeah, paint and chip seal for later on, right? Paint for now, so we get ahead of that.
Are the rocks gold?
We can make
We can make them go. How's this all sounding? Is it confusing or is it fine? Yeah, okay, perfect. So we're gonna move forward then on to, where were we, recreation? Picnic tables. Going communities.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Is there anything that we're taking out of that we might have a big ticket item that we might want for that growing communities fund that I'm taking away from? It seems like we're growing as a community and need more picnic tables for the more people that are coming, because we're growing. I don't know, I'm just aligning these things together, but if I'm not making any sense, let me know.
It may possibly tie into the next item up, which is the mobile home,
Okay,
which might not be a 2025 project, but once we get into infrastructure and other bigger parts of that.
okay. Okay. Okay, thank you for tapping the brakes on that. Yeah, go ahead.
We're also looking at, as part of that, and just with the proposed changes to the wastewater system over on the west side. Hudson and I have discussed looking at whether or not it can be, all of the west side sewer in Zeballos can be rerouted to the Keno Street lift station so that we're not pumping to private property.
Got it. And that would be a Growing Communities Fund
Correct.
project.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So keeping that in the back of your brain before you just go and spend this money, right? Okay. So there, it's $5,000. It can come out of surplus. That was staff's recommendation.
Mhm.
All right,
I agree.
clear lot, first lot on Keno. Which reserve would that come out of? So it says. Claudia or Alana, which reserve would that come out of? And is that even something that you can do in this year? With everything else you've got going on? It doesn't have a complete in 2025. Notation next to it, so that's why I'm wondering, but I'm gonna go to Deputy CDFO Alana or Janice first. I mean her.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, there's an outstanding project from 2024, the arborist crew. Is that something that the clearing the first lot on Keno, can that be the same project? Or is there an additional $15,000 needed for clearing this lot?
For Public Works.
I feel like a little bit of direction maybe on that keynote. The idea is just to clear the area across from the medical center, the trees and stuff like that. Yeah. I wouldn't mind putting that project off another year. The arborist crew, I definitely would like to get on top of this year. There are a few danger trees and things that need to be taken care of. I wouldn't mind if that project was pushed off for another year.
So it sounds like these are two different projects then is what I'm hearing through to staff member Janice. Counselor,
I think they were the same project. But besides that, there's some vegetation that actually needs to be dealt with there. I believe that we decided that's why we're gonna have an arborist do it. Because there's some leaners that could fall onto people's properties and houses. And the idea was to clean it up and get a better line of view through there with traffic. That gives a couple of different factors there, and just be done with all the vegetation that's. But I think there was talk of arborists within that for sure, which I think part of it is I don't think Public Works is capable of doing really.
No, it would be an arborist.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay, so there's arborist crew at the top of the page, the same page. So it's the first thing on that page that we're looking at that says clear lot first. So the first thing and the last thing are both $15,000.
Yeah.
So are those a combined project is what you're saying then? Is that what's to have the arborist crew come in and
Plow down. I think so.
With council direction.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just peanut gallery, but I recall that they were two different tasks. Hudson needed modelers to take down danger trees throughout the community, which you assessed could be up to $15,000. When Barb was here, she had said that $15,000 in addition to was set aside to clear that lot. In that meeting, you discussed at that point that it didn't have to be total clear of that lot. It could just be take care of those danger trees.
Added to their.
Yeah, okay, maybe that's right. Clarification. I didn't realize it was leveling or if it's going in there picking the danger trees that are, like you're saying, affecting residents and so on and so forth, yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay,
And then in turn, it could be something Public Works could deal with if the proper trees were taken out by the people.
and then so we're getting the arborist this year and then move that maybe possible further on clearing up to the next year with the stipulate that is like an actual clearing of the lot.
Mhm.
Like as much as possible, push that bush back. Does that make
I think
sense?
that's where we're at, yeah.
Yeah, so the 15 for the arborist crew can include some of the danger root trees on that lot, and then we'll move that out to 2026 for that clearing, once the danger trees are gone, the actual clearing of that. Yeah? That makes sense?
I think so.
Uh. Um,
I'm here.
oh yeah. Sorry, I'm troughing with titles here and I'm really struggling this evening.
That's okay. So I just have a question for Public Works. Does that mean that we should increase the arborist amount because to take out some extra danger trees, or was that always in that budget that you originally gave us of 15,000? That would be my question.
Initially, yes, so when I made that, there was 2 specific trees within that lot that I did have accounted for within that 15,000 with the arborist. That was not that with the lot.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, next page, folks. We are close to the end of the subject. Trail expansion and remediation. That's outstanding from 2023, 2024. No, wrong. RV park update. Sorry. Thank you.
Where are you?
I don't know where I am.
Okay.
I think I'm in Zeballos.
Right.
RV park update. Grant to be determined.
What-
We're talking about that the next subject. Is that not? What item is this? CAO Nelson Smith.
That can be incorporated into that same, the same discussion. What we've done is highlighted this all green. Because I think a lot of the outcome is going to be contingent on
Parks.
The committee.
Right.
So speaking with the staff, both Claudia and Alana, we're almost ready to make a recommendation to maybe push this out to 2026 to allow the committee the time to actually formulate a plan that we can work with. If you're ready earlier than that, if the committee's ready earlier than that, we can always do an amendment to the 5-year financial plan. But right now, without having that direction, the recommendation from the committee and the direction from council, it's hard to know what we want to move forward with.
I'm gonna say this because I'm gonna speak plainly because we're in the committee of the whole meeting. If we have the one person who actually we really wanted to have on a committee who is interested in parks on council now, why do we have a committee? I'm just gonna put it out there. I think it's an extra meeting that, probably, we can do at a committee of the whole. I know that there was the want to was because there was people in community that wanted to contribute. And that's why we made a committee. But now the people in the community that wanted to contribute are kind of on council. They were just sworn in. So I don't know if there's other people in community that are willing to stand even as we work through that terms of reference, if this committee is even going to go forward.
We had quite a bit of maybe not for a committee because it wasn't being discussed at the time, but a lot of interest when we have done both of the trail
Okay.
Days, like that. We had a really good turnout for those.
Okay.
And I'm thinking some of those people.
There's interest from community.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Good. Okay. I just wanted to put that out there and talk about it because we're in a committee of the whole. So then let's put a hold on these and just wait until that works itself out.
These meaning
The ones that are parked in, are in green, that say establish the committee to review the
Yeah,
parks.
okay, gotcha.
Because until they start making decisions or at least have a overview of what the inventory of what we have, right? Like, and these are the projects that are kind of on that committee would be discussing. And then they would make recommendations to us.
If we could form a committee.
Yeah. Okay. Deputy Finance Clerk Ella Janice.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to confirm if that also includes the trail expansion and remediation, which is outstanding from 2023, 2024, or if that is just the items in the 2025 column.
So what you're looking for is a confirmation on the trail expansion and remediation project. That was $41,583.33. That will either come from surplus and or that will come from surplus and donation.
That is correct. So I'm just looking at it right now, and it looks like RV park update, Little Zeballos Trail Bridge, and the Cenotaph. Are those the three projects that you'd like to push forward to 2026, or would you also like to push forward the trail remediation and expansion to 26 as well?
The trail remediation. Give me a second. What was that project? I need more information about what that project was, because we can't answer the question if we don't know what we're talking about. So is there a specific project that's tied to that? CAO Nelson Smith.
Thank you. It was reinvigorating the trail. So it started with the estuary trail, getting rid of all the old boardwalk and rebuilding that trail. The remainder, from my memory, is intended to rebuild the sections on the Little Zeballos Trail that absolutely need boardwalk, and that's where the expense is in purchase of lumber and.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Is that something that can be done in the fall? That's on your work plan? So then let's not move that out. If that's already on a work plan, that's already is an outstanding item as well, then let's not add that. Let's propose that to the committee as this is where we are now, and this is what will happen in the fall. This is something that is happening going forward. That's already got the budget in for. The other projects are, more, this is already in process.
Sure.
Does that sound reasonable?
Gotta figure out where the money's gonna come from. Is that already done?
It says surplus and
It's already
donation.
done.
What is the donation portion of that?
It's from real session, I think.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that. And then the rest will come out of our surplus. Uh,
Can we move, please? Why was RV park update part of this? I don't feel like RV park update has anything to do with a committee for parks, trails, and playgrounds.
I would, as a recreation site. Typically an RV park is for recreationers.
Right.
And so that to me would fall under a park committee, because it's a recreation park, like the campground, the Zeballos campground.
Right. Okay. Good. It's not gonna matter too much, but I kind of feel like it's more like closer to being like the mobile home park.
it's housing almost.
Housing, yeah, like especially in our community. I don't think that should be governed under a board of parks myself, but anyways, just an aside until we can work through it.
Okay. It's not a deal breaker.
Not really.
Oh, at this
Especially
point.
when you're 3 from the end.
Okay. Oh, boy. Okay, yeah, so that can come out of surplus and donation if there is room for that. Where are we at now? Was there any other direction that you folks needed from us? And where do we go from here? our next meeting will be about. Fruit sack, CAO Nelson Smith.
We're hoping that the next committee of the whole meeting will be to go over the operating budget as well as finalizing what council's brought forward today with this one.
Okay. Okay. Amazing. We're good? Thank you, Claudia, for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And I'd like to say thank you to Alana for all the work that she did. She did a fantastic job once again.
I didn't know you
Thanks,
could do
Claudia.
that on Teams. Her little heart went like this. Amazing. Yes, thank you both for all your hard work. Appreciate it. So we are moving on to our RV Zeballos Mobile Home Park conversation. CAO Nelson Smith.
Thank you. Not much more to add from the reports, just looking for some good council discussion on what your vision is for the mobile home park. And this ties into our last discussion that the RV park is actually a portion of that parcel of land. There is no actual, division of land there. So initially, when our public works foreman and I were speaking with McElhaney, as I said to Mayor Colburn earlier, our eyes got bigger than our stomach, and we started moving forward with these grand designs. And and then realizing that it was getting out of scope, we pulled back. Had McElhaney provide us with 3 options. So staying where we're at, one that's a little bit improved, and then almost like the Cadillac of what to do with that land. And before we progress any further with McElhaney, we're looking for council direction, so that we can move forward with a solid foot.
Thank you for that. Council discussion. I'm going to start with a couple of questions. Can we subdivide? Do we have to subdivide in order to make those 2 areas separate?
We can,
So that's within our power to do so.
absolutely.
So that it would be more of a recreation kind of thing. And then if you want to live, you live here. Under the rules of a mobile home park, can you have RVs on mobile home paths?
We can create our own bylaw.
You can do whatever you want to do. Because I was talking to, the reason I'm asking these questions of the CAO is because I was talking earlier and I was looking at these maps and I was like, one is like crazy face, like he said, the Cadillac, like, oh my goodness, I don't know that we can do that. The other one, so in the images, C100 is state of affairs. That's where we're at. This is where we're at. The C101 is that's Vancouver, and we're Zeballos. I think it's kind of overkill. And then C102 is good, but it doesn't make allowances for things like, what about RVers who are going to be there longer term? What about, is it just recreation only? Are we going to allow long term in there? Should we move that over to the RV park? Should we? So all these questions came up in my mind. And if we are going to do, longer term RV rentals, are we going to provide green space between them so they have more of like a yard kind of thing? There's all these questions that this brought up to me that I didn't know how to. I think my opinion, this is just my brother's, is it's something in the middle here. And I also thought that once upon a time as council, we had talked about leaving a space for some kind of a development. which sometimes RVs are not the best things for people. Sometimes people don't want to move their trailers all the way in on the gravel road or barge in, or maybe that's cost prohibitive for them. Maybe they want to live in an apartment and we don't have any such thing. So that brings up to me, do we want to be landlords, or would it be something that we would ask BC Housing to do? So these are all questions that have to do with this expansion of this RV / mobile home park. Councillor Jennings.
So
That's a lot, I know, sorry, but I just went, bleh.
I'll tell you my opinion, and it's pretty straightforward. So it's pretty similar to the parking situation that we were talking. Okay, gonna get inundated. Eventually, people are gonna come. Like they've already started to with their tourism, with their parking, with their, and what we have to be careful of with the situation is what we're gonna allow. Now, you have to have a threshold in place of what is acceptable. Most mobile home parks don't allow RVs to come onto their land, because what happens is you end up with it looking unfavorable, and then to undo that becomes very hard, especially I would suggest as a municipality running it. So I would suggest that whatever expansion we do within the mobile park itself, we're very firm on stipulations on how you're allowed to do things and what you're allowed to park on the property. How I know a lot of parks, they don't even, you can't even park your boat on it, right? Because they're so small, you know, it's just, it ends up becoming a cluttered looking mess very quickly. So that's my opinion on the mobile home side, is we have to move forward, you know, forcefully and with a lot of thought on how we're gonna set that up. I think that what did I put down? It was like regarding okay, so we need to maximize the potential for affordable housing in this community. We don't have anywhere to go. I think as many lots as we can provide to do that will fill up. You know, I think we have the potential to put 2 in right away. Is that correct? 12 and 13 says here or something. Like, I don't think it's gonna take long for those to fill up once they're serviced. And I'm gonna think that that is going to happen with no matter how many service lots we provide within that park in particular. I think judging by what I've seen and what's progressed here within the RV park situation, is we could probably take away part of that if we wanted to, and still be able to accommodate such as in C101. Properly, is that part? No. Anyway, my point is that we have an overabundance of spots there, I think, at this point. And I think that our parameters as far as acceptability of what we have going on there are pretty loose. And that's gonna have to be, you know, looked at also in the future, or as we progress through this plan even. So, I mean, is that normal for people to be able to live full time in an RV park? Probably, right? Is it? Does anybody, is that something? I don't think it is, but.
I would come back with what's your normal. Is Zeballos normal? Because from in historic, like moving forward is a completely different story. We can do whatever we want.
Of course.
We can make those rules. We can work with the people who are living there. We can make, you know, try to make it as painless as possible on people, right? Because they're just trying to eke out a living. But from my experience in Zeballos, it was always that it was full and people lived there all the time. That was a full time. It was like the trailer park. There was trailers, there was 15 trailers in the trailer park, and there were 18 RVs in the RV park, right? And it was village run, it was managed that way. Things have changed a whole lot and demographics have changed and,
Sure.
and time has moved on. But I think that's a leftover maybe from what
Sure.
was,
Sounds
right?
sense.
Because yeah, the bylaw doesn't, like, what does our bylaw,
We don't have one.
right? We don't have one, so anything's allowed right now.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, should you be able to live in a car in the RV park? Probably not. Right? I mean, so it's pretty loose is what I'm getting at.
Mhm.
So we need to figure that out because of what I said at the beginning. Because I think that we are gonna move forward a lot quicker than we think.
Mhm.
And that's just, you know, what I perceive. But that's important. And to get ahead of that, again, would be very valuable to us. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you for that, because those are all, this is part of this planning process. So sure.
Sure.
Counselor Copeland.
Thank you. How many people do you actually get in the campground in the season? And is this overkill for RVs? And people who living in the mobile homes, that's a necessity, and that's providing a home to take care of the home process. But I'm not sure the RV is gonna satisfy that without detracting, I suppose is one word. On the map there, I'm not familiar with it over there right now.
Which map are you looking at?
No,
It's 102?
Two.
Yeah,
Yeah, the center section of the RV park, if I'm not mistaken, runs from 100 to 107.
Mhm.
Yeah, is that really necessary with all the other ones on the outside? And can that be community park? And down the road, if you find out you need it, you snap it into the RVs, no, sorry, into the mobile homes. Because that provides home with the RVs. Kinda.
so what are you asking about, like data on usage of the RV park, how well it's used, and if we're using all those spots actively?
Yeah, and then why bother doing this? Why not develop that center section into something other than RVs?
Through to staff.
I can only give you anecdotally, since 2022,
Mhm.
I've never seen that part.
Mhm.
I think maybe the most at any given time, maybe 7, 8 units. Most.
Can I clarify something? Those already exist.
They exist?
That's not the development. I'm just gonna get up and go really sick. So, right here, those exist. Those exist.
Okay,
These exist. But they're not developed, okay? But these are RV spots.
okay, so what I'm suggesting, get rid of them, and if we need it for this particular reason,
Right,
it would be more beneficial than
over here,
putting these guys
these
in.
don't exist.
So C100 is how it exists today.
Yes,
If you want to look at that one, but C100 is
Yeah,
exactly how it exists today.
so C100 is how it exists today,
Yeah.
right? And there's people in those spots, so it's already been delineated out that way.
Yeah.
And in the summertime, there's, what did you say, 7, 8,
Tops.
something like that, campers in there. It does allow for some space in between of campers, which is nice. And I don't know if, we're kind of expecting, if we're gonna pursue tourism, I don't know that we'd want to necessarily get rid of any of them, right, and put it into park space. I do think that maximizing what's at a mobile home spot, but I would hate for us to turn those into mobile home spots and then have recreational people coming and us not be able to fill the not, so the lodges are full, the hotels are full, what's kind of only anybody's other option, right? So that's, I don't know,
It depends on what we're after.
right?
The rest
Yeah, it
of-
does. It depends what the end goal is. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
If the long term is gonna be housing,
yeah.
then I would suggest that don't go spending all the money on the RVs.
Mm-hmm,
right.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I guess with the potential of somebody even living in a car. If we're gonna tighten up on that whole thing, then that should be tightened up as well.
Yeah.
Because it's existing today.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's why I was thinking if we were going to allow any long-term provision of anybody in the RV park, then maybe that would be the only place we could develop would be in that, okay, so you know, when you're looking at the RV park, where's this map? So if you're looking at it like this, at the back on this. Oh wait. Can't get my orientation right. Parkway. That's the mobile home park. This is the RV park. Is in this the wooded area over here. If we were going to allow long term, then that would be the only place I think that it could be allowed, so that there are so that there's shaded and green space delineated spaces, right? If we were going to allow that, I think that's the only place we could. If you're going to be long term, there's 3 spaces, that's what's available. Once they're full kind of thing, right?
I like that.
Right? Because then they're not in the body of the RV park. They're actually planning on staying there. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, so right in
And he's good.
here. Right? That kind of treat area right there.
Yeah.
Because there's a fence here, right? So like one space, some green space. There's already a trail through there. Like, that's a delineation of, right? That goes through into the trailer park, right? So if we were going to allow, I think that's probably, like you said, don't throw any more money after the RV park right at this particular point, because it's not full. Concentrating, yeah, for sure on that, on the homes, I think is of more importance. CEO Nelson.
Thank you. I do believe that this is going to be a long discussion. This is a large parcel of property to develop. What staff are looking for, tonight, we're in a closely subsequent meeting, is direction with the $189,000 that's left. Our recommendation being upgrading the utilities to proper municipal grade utilities along what's called Parkway Place, so that we can accommodate opening up the 3 parcels that are currently usable, because we don't have.
Let's
And that's what our recommendation is. I mean, obviously,
Yeah, for sure.
but with $189,000, that is about the limit of what we'll be able to do.
Absolutely, but as we're moving forward through this plan, I think there has to be some conversation about what that longer term looks like.
Absolutely.
So it's not that I think that concentrating, I think we've kind of already established here that concentrating on home availability is, you know, kind of is of the importance. So far, is that kind of where we're at?
absolutely
Right?
maximize affordable potential for housing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that your recommendation is sound. I also think that any improvements that we can make to infrastructure under the ground is going to be, because then we can tag on in the long run to the other sites as we can develop them. I do worry about the Vancouver map. The big one, and I know that there is potential for us to grow exponentially, and that we do need to look in the future, but we also have to be realistic about what we're willing to accept, what the valley has the capacity to accept, right? And I think that in that larger plan, first of all, the homes don't run that way, the lots don't run that way, right, as they're existing right now. So they have to be, you have to, the dwellings that are there currently have to be recognized. One of my questions is, if we look at even a plan of servicing the existing ones that are already there, what's the price point on that? And do we have the capacity in the current sewer system to actually even maintain that? Those were a couple of questions that I had within the Vancouver map is too big for me, but I know we do need to be prepared for an influx of people. It's just, what can we handle here?
Did you want to speak on what Lauren was saying about that lift station?
Yeah, speaking with Lauren here last week, Range 2 Ops, and as Pete had mentioned about 15 our sewer not going running onto private land, but running onto our own at the Maquinna lift station would be very doable. We would reuse what we just upgraded, the kiosks, the pumps and everything. Basically, the only thing that would need to be upgraded there is a deeper well. So you could actually have the gravity drop from the mobile home park over to that lift station.
Mhm.
It's definitely doable.
That's good news.
That's
Yeah.
great news.
He also suspected that it would have capacity to deal with if we ever do connect the east side.
Mhm.
Are you kidding me? Amazing. And as long as the sewer expansion has the capacity to, right? Yeah. Okay, interesting. So, I mean, I think the recommendation is good. Moving forward, when you're asking, whoever's working on the maps to gear back a little bit. But I mean, remember that we need to have room for expansion, but also recognizing what's currently there. Does that sound reasonable with what the funds that we have? And this is a longer or more, like, this is a plan going in the future, but I know it's like, it is 9, it's not that we have a time limit on this or anything, but I'm getting a little punchy at least. And it is a much larger conversation, and I'd like to have all of council here, because these are long-term plans that are going into the future. We're talking about the growth of Zeballos, and this is the only possible place that there can be growth, as far as I see it right now, without taking over public spaces. So or private owned spaces. So it's something to keep in the back of your mind. Do we want to be landlords? Do we want to put this RV park together and put it out to let for a job for somebody to manage? Do we want to put a parcel away in the back of the RV park for a conversation with BC Housing and putting an apartment building back in there? Like, what are we, we're trying to maximize options for affordable housing. Where exactly and what are we willing to do with that? Just Councillor Denise.
See you. Now, I think the best way to attack a project like this, I think, there's a lot of merit in everything being said, but I could see something like this end up happening, the larger one, the C101. But we gotta start at the beginning. The beginning is with these recommendations. And I think past that, we could put this into a more segmented idea where there's like expansions one at a time.
Phase. Yeah.
And I think the first phase would be to work on Parkway Place. Making sure that we have the right water and sewer connections, electrical on there, on Parkway Place, and servicing as many lots as we can that are already kind of pre-existing. It wouldn't interfere with perhaps the next, maybe there's a 3-phase plan in this. And we could work on the next phase, which would be like a big expansion and putting in 10 more, pads or whatever. And see how fast those fill up, and then we can think about the next phase and a third, and maybe ending up on, the grand scheme here. The RV park side, I don't have. Oh, I don't feel like it's being utilized properly or enough at this point. So, but definitely the mobile home stuff, I think there's a future there. And being landlords, sure, or being landlords with somebody who deals with all the business for us, that'd be nice too. Yeah. Maybe I'll just, go ahead and make I'll move these through if you guys don't mind for the,
Please,
move that, recommendation council be made to have staff start construction design with Dr. Honey. Replacement of water and sewer connections and mains along Parkway Place with the availability on expansion included as part of our design. And that a recommendation to council be made to have staff
we
research.
do them separately?
Yeah, let's do them.
Sorry,
Sorry,
sorry to
Okay,
interrupt,
guys.
Councillor Janice.
on the first one.
So the first recommendation, is there a seconder? Councillor Copeland, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried, that will come forward then through to our regular meeting,
January
28th, perfect, and then,
And I'll move the second recommendation as noted.
that's noted, so, research feasibility of rerouting the wastewater collection to the Camino lift station. Is there a seconder? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And that's not opposed, so that is carried. So thank you for that, and I think. Yeah, I do like that idea of that phasing of. And also I think that after this, maybe even before this, continuing on with this conversation about that RV park is valid.
And just to retort, I think the most important part about phasing like that. I mean, we could be sitting on 10 empty pads for like 2 years. And realize that our DSF, and I don't think that's gonna happen, but. Like, and it could go the opposite way, it could be gone overnight. I think it's gonna be something closer.
Or maybe that's the time to have that conversation too, about what do we get a developer in here to build some duplexes or something on that, like what is the best, where's the market at, what are people looking for, what creates longevity and economic growth in the community, right?
Mhm.
So.
I think the beauty of keeping the cost low on a pad rent and an individual being able to control what happens themselves and bring in what they want, because you can range from buying a mobile home from a used one for 50,000 to a nice one for whatever 350 or and I think that's going to be attractive to people, right? So.
We also have to be careful with the stipulations on how we're used though, because you can also buy a mobile home for $5,000 and bring it in here and it costs 15, and then it, and then you're not in the mobile home park area anymore, then you're more in kind of like this is just a space in a piece of land, right? It's
Sure.
just a space to be, right? Instead of having like those mobile home park rules, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, for sure.
Goes back to earlier conversation.
Yeah, so next iteration of this I know we're doing fees and charges soon. Fees and charges bylaws might be the place to have those conversations.
Mhm.
If we're expecting a certain amount of money for a for a service, then what do we expect other people to do with that service? And what do we expect, what are we providing them to have? What kind of experience are we providing them to have, right?
And even to back up a little more, even good litmus test will be even if we just open those 2 or 3 and
Yeah, too, and see what happens.
they might pop right away.
Right? Yeah, and there's all sorts of options out there. There are little $3,000, there's tiny homes, right? Yeah, exactly. So there's the range is large for, whatever people's affordability might be. Cool, okay. Conversation done. So we'll bring that back, of course, with these conversations kind of embedded in that, if you would.
Absolutely, and it's my intention to hold another strategic planning session now that we've crossed a couple off, likely in March. So that's where these sort of ideas can spring forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving on, we've got proposed 2025 service changes. CAO Nelson Smith.
Thank you. Not much to add that's not already in the report. Just wanting to make council aware of what our ideas are and if there is any firm opinions of why we shouldn't move forward with this. That's the reason I brought it forward.
To council. I will start off with saying, staff will never replace volunteers, right? That is, there's always room for that. We had that conversation earlier and you allude to that you say that in our report. I do think that keeping a little bit of council's hand in that, or not council's hand, but staff's hand in that would give us a much better idea of what the inventory looks like, where moving the money into the safe, all of those kinds of things. And also, I think that the opportunity for staff to possibly, if there is interest, train up those volunteers. So having a staff person who actually knows what goes on in there and how to really give a tour properly, and then what the check marks are, and then the volunteers can do that supplemental stuff is a really good idea, especially now that there isn't a heritage board. I know we're having a hard time with that, and I think it's just the times. This village doesn't work like it used to. That's neither here nor there. It's just a sign of the times. Volunteerism is down, and at least having somebody who is available to do it that's here at the office would be. That's what I'll start off with. Councillor Janice.
So essentially, I think that this is a good idea. I think that having somebody on a contract is a good idea, and I think giving them a percentage of what they bring in is a good idea, because I think that would motivate them to, you could set up something where it was a wage plus a percentage of what they bring in from parking fees, campground fees, boat launch fees. That would motivate a person to make sure their job's done properly, because it's gonna impact their income directly, right? And that's what happens with a lot of contracts in municipalities with marinas and whatever. And I just think that finding somebody to do it's gonna still be a bit of a complication. But I think that's a great idea moving forward. Okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely something new to try, right? I mean, we've kicked the can at a lot of things over the years, and it seems that every year there's someone different that's willing to do something else that works for. And I mean, is there an option of having like proposals brought in? That might be something that we might want to put out to community as well. We've tried to do it ambassador way. We've tried to do it contract way. We've done that contract in the past. There's been multiple iterations at this, and now, if you have better ideas for something that'll suit your schedule, possibly maybe like bring something to us. I don't know. I know we always have, that issues with finding the right person to do the job, the right fit, the right mentality, the right motivation, all of that kind of stuff. And maybe the barrier is that, well, I need it to work half this way and half another, because I know there have been positions that have been filled in community and they haven't been applied for because they didn't fit exactly with what the needs of that employee. Right. So I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. I think this is great and I think it's fine, and to put it out there like that. But as you're having conversations in the office, maybe that's something to consider.
Sounds good.
All right.
Maybe Melcher could do it.
Oh, jeez.
Put it on her list.
It will be on a.
This is getting long, eh?
Long,
Wow.
I quit my job.
Nice. You can't do that. You gotta do it all.
Do you want to have more conversation about that as staff, about the proposal idea, or no?
No, I like that.
Well, then I don't want to move a recommendation that says that we want to do. Or what about if I say a recommendation
Change the recommendation.
be be made to have staff advertise a summer contract position.
It would still fit within that
It's-
recommendation.
Yeah, okay, okay,
It still fits within
Okay.
there. It's just how are we going to do it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I love that idea of a proposal.
all right. Now, not that people want to read a proposal either, but if interested, please come in and talk to us. Right, like, well, we
Yeah,
don't
sure.
expect a written 500-word essay, but like, was that prohibitive? Oh, come on, I know you like to read people.
I think it's got, it's gotta be worth somebody's while, right?
Yep.
That's what it comes down to.
Yep,
Just, what's expensive right now.
right. All right, so I'm gonna make a recommendation to council be made that to have staff advertise the summer contract position for parking and campground monitoring and fee collection to trial for the 2025 season.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And nobody's opposed, that's carried.